It feels a lot cooler today, and here come the clouds. There's no rain though, which is a good thing. And what did I read today? There seemed to be a theme today when it came to drones anyways. How about this one, where apparently here in Canada, this will be a first of sort in terms of using drones as a first responder for 911 calls. This one says, drones will be first responders to 911 police calls in Mississauga and Brampton. Anybody around those areas that will, I guess, see these things flying around? It says, drones will soon assist police by responding to 911 calls in Mississauga and Brampton. Peel Regional Police say they will be the first in Canada to use a technology which could be deployed as early as this fall. Speaking at a telephone community safety town hall meeting in Brampton on Wednesday, Deputy Chief Anthony Adorty stated the drones will be, quote, first responders to the 911 calls that the police receive. What that means is that for any emergency calls, there will be no lag time and a drone will be sent immediately to the 911 emergency calls to capture significant evidence for our officers responding, said Adorty. This will significantly decrease the lag in response time, provide greater evidence to investigate crimes, and results in great apprehensions. When they say lag, I think of it more from a computer point of view, for example, like using the internet, like a delay in signal. But this one here says the lag time is considered the period between when you call 911 and can speak to the operator. It wasn't too clear from reading this anyways in that regards in terms of, quote, lag time. For example, do these drones automatically detect whatever signal or area the call is originating from and then it immediately goes there, for example? Because I would imagine usually in these cases somebody has to actually talk to another human to determine, okay, where exactly are you? If you're telling me the whole thing's automated, again, in that regards where you just phone in and then it detects your location and it'll go, that's kind of interesting in that regards. And again, does that mean it could be easily spoofed as well? Can you imagine that, where people are doing it as a prank of sort, or criminals using it as a way to divert the drones elsewhere? And they say here specifically, they don't actually mention how many they're actually putting out there, which will be a huge issue as well, where you can't really rely on this if they only have, let's just say, 1 or 2 drones for the whole area, huh? I can't imagine, for example, having hundreds or thousands of these everywhere for calls, because sometimes people phone 911 for things that aren't actually necessary, for example, too. So that would be a disaster if you always have like a drone flying immediately, which again, I don't think that's how it's going to be exactly, but either way, I guess if you're in the area, you could expect to see stuff like this. And again, more about police using drones, I guess, in other parts of the world. This one says, Cincinnati Police Department drone program begins covering 40% of city. The drone sirens wailed and its red and blue lights flashed as it hovered in front of District 1 Police Headquarters. Through a loudspeaker, a voice echoed from the whirring machine, reporting for duty and ready for dispatch. Cincinnati Police officially launched a new drone as first responder program during a news conference July 25th. Chief Teresa Thieg called the program life-saving and future-changing. Law enforcement technology companies Axon and Skydio sent representatives to witness the first flight. Noreen Charlton with Skydio says Cincinnati's program is the largest drone as first responder program in the Midwest. Axio's Kristen Lohman said it was one of the most advanced programs in the country. Which makes me think, actually, when you read stuff like this, do you actually feel, quote, safer knowing there's more police drones and stuff monitoring the whole area and all that? Or does it make you feel more uncomfortable? For myself, it's just one of those topics, again, where it's a regular person that kind of loses their rights to use stuff like this with, I guess, a narrative of safety and all that. Yet all of a sudden, again, it's magically okay when you have all these officials flying them all over the place, huh? And actually, with that thought, this kind of relates to that in some ways, I guess, just in terms of, let's just say, people losing their rights in some way and people disagreeing with it. But how about this one? It was kind of interesting as this news was going around a lot, where there was some musician or something like that that had a tour planned here in Canada at various areas. They got the permit and all that, but apparently afterwards their permit was revoked because people were outraged, apparently anyways, with the type of music that the person does. So I was like, hey, what's this all about? It's kind of interesting too. This one here says, all 6 Canadian venues cancel Christian musician Sean Feucht's show. So I personally had no clue who this guy was. I'm guessing he's obviously not as big as, let's just say, a Taylor Swift or something like that. So I was just reading some details, and for those who don't know as well, apparently this person is a Christian rocker and a missionary who ran as a candidate before in California in 2020. He scheduled an 11 concert tour starting in York Redoubt National Historic Site near Halifax, Nova Scotia on July 23rd. And then he planned other places, for example, such as Charlotte, Moncton, Quebec City, and Gatineau. So he wrote this on his social media account saying, "My official statement on the Let Us Worship Canada tour. Here's the hard truth. If I had shown up with purple hair and a dress claiming to be a woman, the government wouldn't have said a word. But to publicly profess deeply held Christian beliefs is to be labeled an extremist and to have a free worship event classified as a public safety risk. The Let Us Worship movement was born as an organic response to authoritarian COVID-19 lockdown policies that in Canada were among the most oppressive in the world. The pandemic may be over, but the anti-Christian bias remains. We will not cower in the face of religious persecution, whether in America, Canada, or anywhere else. We will find places to pray. We will find places to praise, and despite the very real risk of arrest, we will stand with our Canadian brothers and sisters to boldly declare, let us worship." And during this time too, he was posting all this stuff where there were actually vehicles that rammed into his bus and so forth. I mean, that's the claim, but it seems like there were other places that actually welcomed him to host his event, I guess, on their site. For example, it seems like from the post here anyways, there were some First Nations that actually offered their land, for example, to host the events. That's what it seems like. So that's kind of an interesting, I guess, topic to bring up. Is this going overboard, I guess, in terms of restricting someone from doing something like this? Is it necessarily he's doing it in an extremist way per se, like saying, for example, kill these people, kill that people, like in that type of manner? I can see in that regards, you would say, okay, get the guy out of here, that type of thing. But if it's more about expressing a view that's getting into a sticky situation, because a lot of people express, let's just say, views in this way, and it's perfectly acceptable, I guess, to host those events, or you can say, quote, protests. So it makes you wonder, in this case, is there a bias in general or no? Because this is one of those things I often say is true for myself, where you have to be consistent when it comes to this stuff. If you say it's not okay for this person to do it that way, then you can't just magically say, okay, it's okay for the other group to do virtually the exact same thing. The only difference is one may cater to your personal beliefs more than the other. Because I'm thinking of it from a humorous point of view too in some ways. Aren't there events, for example, let's just say there's musicians that do things like, quote, gangster rap, where in the music they literally talk about, for example, doing drugs, killing people, like that type of thing in their music, and they have concerts that are perfectly, I guess, okay to be hosted. So in that regards, how could that be acceptable in general if you're saying, for example, certain events they shouldn't be allowed because of their views? Because I would think anyways, again, it comes down to the context of the situation. Is it artistic, for example? Are they specifically asking people to do some kind of, I guess, violent action? I mean, you have to really think about it, because it's a dangerous situation to get in when you start saying, this guy's not allowed to say this, but that guy can. I mean, again, you need consistency in my opinion. Otherwise, you look like a complete hypocrite. All right, see you guys later.